my first 7 or 8, I'm like, is this it? I'm like, yeah. I mean, I felt so confident. And then of course you hit your first tough one.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh gosh, I'm only on question 9. But when you start getting into flow, you get about 3 or 4 that you're like, man, I don't know. And then you get on a roll with another, 3, 4, 5, 6 that you're like, yeah. You talk about Rocky. I had like motivational music in my head too, and that was lifting me up. That was like, I don't even want to confess what the songs were, but
whatever, it worked.
But it was like I was like, and then I'd get the song. And then it go. I'm back in the game again. I'm back in the game. So that's what I meant by emotional roller coaster. It literally was. And Scott, you know where I went to school.
Yeah.
And, I've had some pretty challenging exams in my life.
Oh yeah.
This one ranks up there. I mean,
That's
if
cool,
not,
man.
I mean, it is up there. Because of the physical, the emotional, the roller coaster. I mean, you never go through all these series of emotions. And I don't think I've ever sat down and took a 4-hour exam either, but,
that's awesome.
it's just, it's challenging in so many ways, but it's so much gratifying when it does.
That's awesome.
It's so gratifying when it is.
All right, guys, that is Rolando and Maya. This is going to be an awesome episode. 100, this is episode 100. We're going to get right into it. Want you to focus on the emotional roller coaster that Rolando went through. Now, he managed himself the entire time. Everybody's got a story. You got one too, all right? So what he did to get himself to the PMP exam is what you want to focus on right now. So let's get into it. This is a big one. I'll talk to you at the end. We got a lot of cool things coming up that are going to help you out. But let's get into Rolando, learn from Rolando and Maya. Take it away, guys. All right, today is episode 100, and we got 3 people on the call. This is a super, super special time, and we got some cool stuff to talk about. So let's just jump right into it. Rolando, it is good to see you, my man. I'm very proud of what you just accomplished. And you. Maya, you are the coach that helped him get where he needs to go. So we got all 3 of us together. What we're going to do is we're just going to do like we always do. We're going to talk about Rolando's experience, his journey, how he got here, got tons to learn, and we're going to go from there and see what happens. So, Rolando, great job, man. How did you do on the exam?
Well, I took the exam last Saturday, so a week back from tomorrow, and I passed. I did really well. So that's the positive thing on it. So the long journey, almost 10 months, almost 10 months to the day. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. So why don't you just we know the end of the story, but the end of the story is the same. We all pass, right?
Right.
Or at some point. But the more interesting part is how we got here. So why don't you walk us through kind of your personal journey to get to your PMP, please?
Sure. So I started off last year, about last August. I was laid off. I was unemployed. And through my state services, through by fault, they let me know about a state grant, essentially,
right,
to take some courses. And one of them was project management. And amongst all them there, I had some minor exposure. It looked like it was the best fit for me. So I signed up. I got it. It was about a 10 to 12 week course. Concluded with that in December. Mm-hmm. That one was more traditional, straight out the PMBOK. Instructor there was great. It was just the right pace. But it was taught, straight out knowledge areas and right out the book. We took quizzes. We learned network diagramming, and we did all that kind of good stuff. Some EVM. And I started to proceed to study for the exam. And it was through a classmate of mine that happened to get a hold of your material.
Yeah,
and passed me along and many other classmates in that class the audiobook, a link to the audiobook off Amazon. And I was in the middle of studying with the classmate that and we were in the library, and I said, hey, we took as like a study break or something, getting ready for the exam, and I downloaded your book in the middle of a break, and about 2 minutes later, you were calling me, and I was like amazed. I didn't know who you were, or what PM Prep was and all that, and I thought that was pretty cool. You said, "Hey, this is Scott Payne," and I'm going, "This book I just downloaded." Yeah, and we talked about the opportunities you could present, and it sounded great. Obviously, I went through the course traditionally, your course traditionally, before the accelerator course I'll get into here. That was great. So I went through the e-course. I went through every single video, took every single what'd you call it, module test, cell test, then the process groups, and just went on down the line and took all the exams and really built on the foundation that I had already. But I would say to a better degree, I had a good foundation. I had exposure to it because I'm off the street. I didn't know what project management was, to be honest with you. And then learning it in that 12-week course gave me a foundation or exposure to it. And your material, what I would say, connected the dots. And I said, oh, okay, that made it make sense. As I said, I was still unemployed, was searching for employment there during that time. I had a couple of interviews. I had a couple of dueling options there for me. End up choosing one. Started at the end of March. I'd already scheduled my exam, ready to go from your first material. Felt pretty comfortable. And then this pandemic hit and shut down all the sites and canceled all the exams. So getting used to a new job, getting acclimated with that. I did that for about a couple months, and then started getting word from PMI that they were up and running again and available. And I said, well, let me get back to PMP. I want to get that squared away. Yeah. And I think I instantly got a hold of you, either sent you a quick message or an email, and said, hey, Scott, I'm ready to get back on the saddle again. And, can you help me get, squared away or ramped up, because it wasn't new to me. And by that time, I think you were just getting ready to launch it off, if not just did it. And you were telling me, well, I got the perfect program for you, and told me about the accelerator program. And I said, that's exactly what I'm looking for.
Nice.
And I went and did that and went through that whole thing. And, it's like your program before was great. It was awesome. It was, and then this new program, the 7-day accelerator program is like your stuff on steroids.
Nice. Cool.
The interaction with the coach and the daily and the calls, the weekly calls, the interaction in a group, all that. It was just building blocks for me. And then finally, when I went to go into the exam, I felt totally confident and comfortable.
That's awesome. And you did so well. So that's good, man. Well, I love the story, man. I love how you stuck with it. You went from, I remember you and your buddy calling me, or I call you in the library and talking to you in the library. I do remember it. It was fun. And I'm glad that this whole kind of thing got us to here. So there's Maya's involved as well. And the coolest part about this whole entire accelerator thing and everything that we're doing here is how, I don't know, it's just it's blossoming relationships and stuff in a cool way. So
absolutely.
Why don't you talk about the way in which Maya, what role she played in your success and how you guys work together and stuff?
Absolutely. Well, Maya's great. I think I got a hold of you maybe about 5 or 6 weeks because I went ahead and I just scheduled the exam. Let me go ahead and put a date out there, and I scheduled it. So I said, okay, I got a good month and a half to get squared away. And if you remember correctly, we had I think because I was, the way I did it and kind of going there, we had some difficulties trying to get me a coach at first. It didn't take long, but then finally I think there was a conflict between another coach and eventually Maya and I said, literally I went, you know what, I'm going to go to one.
Yeah.
And I went to Maya's and I loved it. It was great. She was instrumental. I always believe that everything happens for a reason. And she was very instrumental in my along my journey.
Awesome.
And when you say coach, she puts another definition to that. I mean, I think a coach, I deal with sports.
Yep.
She's that, motivational, kick you up your butt, kick you in
Yeah.
your tail if you need it, pat you on your back and encourage you when you need to get back on the saddle. It was all that. And even to the very detail, to the very end, I went to her, with the last week there, and we formulated a game plan. We formulated a last week game plan. Monday, we're doing this. Tuesday, I took my test on a Saturday.
Yep.
So I had a 5-day work plan up to that. And then prior to that, actually in that session, one of my concerns was, just my test taking ability, integrity, internal clock.
Yeah.
We went through a similar exercise you did with another student, and we went through 20 questions.
Yeah.
And with the stop clock, and we did it. I was averaging around a minute and some change, maybe a minute 10-ish. Some 30, 40, some minute 15,
minute
20.
6. 1 minute.
Minute 6 was the longest one. Yeah, I think. And Maya was on it. And, I guess I must have been just on that day, but I was 20 for 20.
Ooh.
He
I was like, it gave me a boost of confidence, and that's what I needed.
Yeah.
And that's what Maya, more than, amongst many other things, she provides.
That's awesome, man. So Maya,
Thank you.
why don't you talk about your, what you, the role that you played in helping him? Like, how do you approach kind of the coaching side, and how you dealt with Rolando? Like, what was that all about? How'd you do it?
Well, from day one, when I met Rolando, do you remember Rolando? I actually skipped over you.
Yeah, I'm this new guy barging in her class.
And I was like, it was like 2 other new students that day as well. So I was like, hey, just give us a little bit of background. So when new students are introduced to me from you, Scott, I ask them about their PMP journey, just a quick high level. Hey, how did you get here? Where are you? Yep. And, we're going to get to the finish line together. So with those 2 particular students, and then Rolando messaged me in the chat. He's like, hey, you forget about me. I'm like, oh, sorry. So, because he just, popped up, and I just seemed like I knew him before. Yeah. So that's his nickname. I gave him the nickname Champ from day one. Nice. I saw it in him. I saw that he knew the material. He made the connections. He narrowed down to 50-50. He started with the last sentence first, and he was just on it from day one. So he was my champ from day one. I knew he was going to pass. I knew he was going to pass. That's so our relationship, and he was the first student. And typically I don't give my phone number out. Yeah. So he asked me, he was like, hey, and it was very respectful. You know, he had his name, his phone number, his email signature at the bottom of his email. He's like, hey, do you mind if I can call you? I just want to kind of troubleshoot some things. And so I offered him my phone number, and we were instant PMP text buddies up until literally he was leaving to take his exam. I gave him a game plan. I even gave him a dietary restrictions, what to eat, what not to eat, when to stop drinking fluids. And he followed it. He followed the game plan. So he followed your plan, Scott, and then I gave him the game plan. And the game plan is simply what I did, the information and the recommendations that you gave me when I took the exam. I mean, there's no magic. There was no secret formula. It was just exactly what I did leading up to my exam. Rolando did the same thing, and he is the proven, result that it works.
That's awesome. And so I think one of the things that's really cool for me is as we grow this thing, and there's we're almost to 50 successes in a month and a half or something like that. So by the end of the year, I'm setting a goal. Last thing I said, some big stuff's coming, and there are big things coming, and we're going to set some really ginormous goals for trying to shock the PMP world and get a ton of people through by the end of the year. But one of the things I think that's really cool is the only way that we're able to do that is by having a lot of Mayas. And there's only one Maya, you get it. But there's a lot of Mayas. I think one of the things that I'm getting to that is super important is that she has walked in your shoes. And so Rolando, hearing her experiences, was that helpful? Because she's not an instructor like me. She's different. She's better. She's a coach. What was it like hearing it from her, her experience?
Oh, perfect. Again, I went through it your traditional way, and a lot of credence in that. But coming from her, like you said, who's been in her shoes before, there's some different credence to it. There's some weight to it. It's like, hey guys, I know how you feel. I know what you're going through. When we're going through our ups and our downs, or I always say, I'm in a slump.
Yeah.
We all go through the slumps. Hey, I'm back on the uphill, and here's what you need to do. Just to that specific game plan that Maya mentioned there. Things like that, or, we'll go through, some answering, and Maya's good at, she kind of, when she gets a good flow going, she lets it go. So a lot of us students will start bantering and we'll start going and we'll start talking about knowledge. I notice that she lets it go and she lets us do that. And she interjects, a lot of common things that some things that I followed, and Maya knows some things I didn't follow. that I lessons learned, but she'll say things like, hey guys, you want to keep an eye on that. You will get a question on that, or you want to make sure that you don't overbrush or overskip the initiation or the close process and all that. I.e. like myself. It's crucial. It's vital. It's you can't get something better than experience itself, and it was very, very helpful.
That's good. And I know that you mentioned something about like you got a rhythm going and a flow going and the confidence. I know that the one, I think it was Wednesday night before you took, when you took it on a Saturday, right? You took it on Saturday?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so like when you came to my call on Wednesday night, I think I like spooked you or whatever, or I don't know what happened. You got some really, really hard, funky questions that we didn't love, but you missed a couple of them. And so like, it's good to know that like, it wasn't just a straight shot to the end. Like you had just walked out of, talk about like how you were on a up from Maya's call and then what happened in the Wednesday. Like how did you deal with that? Like,
well, no, yours was the first call.
Oh, mine was the first. Okay.
So it was actually in the middle of my, this was the last week before the test. So Maya you knew that I had a test on Saturday.
Yeah.
And I'm just going through the calls. Let me get some question practice. And, by that time, I told you, you're dealing with a full-time job and working from home and kids and, just fatigue sets in and you're looking at material. And that last week there was a perfect example of I got in a slump. I just got in a slump. And, a couple days before I'm hitting 80%, quizzes and tests and, feeling good.
Yeah.
And then you get a moment and you knew I was taking my test on Saturday, and I know you skipped me ahead of a lot of people on there. I'm sure upset a bunch of people.
Yeah, that's all right.
But you knew that I was getting ready there and wanted to get me some practice. And I remember distinctly I was 0 for 4.
Yeah.
Wow.
0 for 4.
Yeah.
And I was like deflated. Okay. Yeah. I was down, just being real and honest.
Yep.
And you kept reassuring me. And I remember what you said at the end. Maya said the same thing, is like, you know what, you're fine. Your process, your thought process is good. You're breaking it down. Your process as well. Just stay on it, stay with it. And you said if it makes you feel any better, if you want to come to my next session.
Yeah.
And I debated it. I said, well, I don't know, because you're in front of everybody, and I know everybody's there for the same thing. But when you get a little bit humbled like that, but I went, you know what, let me give it a try. So it was like an hour or so in between your calls, or a little more than that. Yeah. And that was the time I just stepped away from it. Just took a couple deep breaths, didn't look at it, just decompressed, relaxed. I think I spent some time with my kids, relaxed. And let me jump on this call. Yeah. And I didn't know if I was going to get a question or not, but I think you hit me up again. You notice I was there. I think he gave me a couple questions and I hit them both. And you kept going. It was a bigger class than the first one. And by that time, I think I IM'd you personally, and I said, "Hey Scott, I'm good. I got my mojo back."
Nice.
And I left yours, and then from there, then it went there. But there's consistent cycles. That was not the only time, but that's a perfect example. That was the week before during my game plan. I got in a slump, but you get up and you get down and you get back up, and that was funny.
That's crazy. Yeah, we saw that. I wasn't worried. I was more worried about, because you said it was right. Like your process was right. You just had like little things, and sometimes the questions are just hard and they're hard to answer. And sometimes you just like, I don't agree totally with the answer. So that's just the way it's got to go. But we knew you were on the right path. We just didn't want you to get down like mentally, because it was just bouncing you back up. And once you did, the end of the story. So it went well. Yeah. That's cool. Maya, like from a coaching perspective, when you see students who are doing the slump, like, or getting in a slump, which happens,
Mm-hmm.
what's the way to get them out of it? Or what do you recommend they do? Kind of talk us through that a little bit.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's what we do. We sit down and we talk about it. I met with a few students since teaching. And I think about it, I've only been coaching for a month. And I just had so many successes, so many superstars, like Justin taking it right now. He's definitely a superstar. Rolando was my champ. So, you have those ones, and they all have it. They all have it. And that's exactly what we do. We stay after class and we talk. And we just talk it out because life gets in the way. We're human. This test just weighs on your psyche, your emotions, like Rolando said, physically, emotionally, just mentally, so you just have to have a game plan, we just have to talk it out and get back on that road again, because we just want to get to the finish line. And that's the thing. That's why I call it the PMP journey. I want us all, each class, we begin with, how do we get here? Where are we going? How can we all get to the finish line together? Because it's a journey, and some students feel like it's okay, well, so-and-so passed me up. A student, this past Thursday, Rolando said, well, Rolando just passed me up. And then what did you say, Rolando? We're going to get there at the end together.
Eventually.
Right?
Yep.
Eventually. So it's no time frame. We tend to put the pressure on ourselves and think we need to have this done within, they see your 7 day sky, so they're like, okay, I need to get this done in 7 days. And then, when they start watching the videos, they're like, well, day one was like 5 hours. I can't get through this all in one day. And I told them it's okay, just because it's a 7 day program doesn't necessarily mean that you have to finish it in 7 days. What we want you to do is just finish it successfully.
Yes, absolutely. 100%. And then so Rolando, we've known each other for 10 months or so, right?
Almost a year.
Yeah, almost a year. And, I think like the first 6, 7, 8 months or whatever it was, like we knew, we had talked, I see you in the chat, we talked, but there wasn't as strong a community or a connection, like even just you and I, and definitely Maya wasn't even involved at that time, but even in the chat and stuff, it just wasn't. But the accelerator stuff has been really awesome because like this community has just blossomed, and like, you were always in there chatting and helping and doing stuff. What kind of role do you think the community aspect, whether it's in the coaching calls or the chats or whatever, what role did that play in your development, do you think?
Oh, huge, vital, necessary. All of those words describe it. I shared this with Maya's Tuesday class, and then what I call Thursday class was my homeroom yesterday with my, I think something that doesn't get discussed, it gets discussed here, but I'm going to expound on it, is the community you're talking about. But I said, you need a support system in order to succeed. And that means internal within the class, which is on steroids now, but also the support you need outside of that. So, your family, your loved ones that you sacrifice time away from to spend hours upon hours of studying that you take away from them. I could not have done it without their support, and obviously within the community, this support. And I've not heard that mentioned, and I know it's always inferred, but you need that. That may be beyond your control there, but at least within the community here. I've even, I'm still connected on in some chat, so I'm seeing a couple questions, and if I need to tag on in there, I do. And I gave out my information, and that's the thing, this enabled for me, study groups outside of that, numbers and emails to keep contact with, LinkedIn's. And, I think that it's a camaraderie that will, at least for me, will go on for a lifetime.
That's awesome.
And we go through this together. And the way I look at it is we're in it together, whether you're through this journey or whether you're on to the next certification or anything in life. That's the way I look at it. And I've made a lot of lasting friendships and relationships due to this.
That's really good.
For sure.
That's good. Now let's talk about kind of like the next step. You got this new job. You're doing really good at it. It sounds like a great company, and you guys are really like just doing awesome stuff. Like, how has going through this, and you put a ton of focus on project management in general and how you manage and do those things. How are you, what kind of impact is that having on your current job, your new job?
Oh, wow. Well, it's very impactful. It's not what you call traditional. I mean, it's not by title. I'm a project manager.
Right.
But in essence, I'm a project manager.
Sure. Yeah.
It's in the continuous improvement world, and we handle various projects based on, the company's objectives and all that. So basically, a lot of it is aligned through a business case or a charter.
Yep.
And, you just connect the dots. I'm looking at life and especially this job, but life in general as a whole with new goggles on. Nice. Because you can really apply this to anything. And then I'm realizing before, when I said I didn't really have exposure or anything to project management, I'm realizing before I really did, because somewhere down the line, you're going to have a justification or a case or a business case, and you're going to have to go through these objectives, and you're going to have to go through planning and you finally executing it and checking it and implementing it and all these sort of things, and schedules and budgets. And I mean, that's been my whole career. So in short, it's really grown me. I see things through a lot of different eyes, and it's enabled me to be better at my job because I'm looking out for things. I'm organizing them better so that they'll go, I'm recognizing key stakeholders. I'm listing, I'm identifying risk. Yeah. And I'm putting assignments to them and maybe some responses and some owners and, just all this stuff that I wouldn't have even thought of before, but just wrapping it all together and connecting the dots. Yeah.
That's really good, man.
That's wonderful.
That's really wonderful. Well, this has been good. I mean, like, the sad part about these things is, like, you go through this journey and, like, hey, we're done. But like you said, doesn't end. You're in the team and you're in the club now with us and everything. Yeah. And we'll stick together. So we really appreciate it. Now, as we come to the end, is there anything, like, there's people out there like you, Rolando, who have, have great backgrounds, great jobs, maybe a ton of people furloughed right now, right? Like, you were out of a job first when we started, and they want to get this for various reasons. Like, you've been through it, you were successful. What would you say to those people to help them out and to get them where you are currently?
Stick with the process. Stick with the process. I told both classes, hey, you need not look any further. You're in the right program.
Cool.
Okay. So embrace it. There's going to be ups and downs. Keep with it, and literally stick with the process. Even through the 200 question 4-hour exam, there was a lot of times there I wanted to quit, because I'm like, I don't know if I'm getting this. Yeah. Because you're like, I'm not so sure about it. And then you're like, you know what? I still kept reading the last question. I still kept going through my options. I still kept eliminating and getting 50-50. I still kept going on. And a couple softballs came through and I was right back at it. Man. Right. So you got to keep it going. And I think it was the last 2 points where there was a couple of podcasts, even during my week, Maya was like texting me, hey, you got to listen to Scott's podcast today. It's perfect. And I'm like, okay. And one of them was, the first one was, I think it was Emmanuel's testimony, where I have to really, really stress the importance of the mental aspect of it. Okay. The mental aspect of it is, I almost think 90% of the fight. Okay. We all get the content. We learn how to take a test, but if you can't force march up that mountain and stick with the process and go, like I said, it's physically, I was cramping, I was dehydrated, I was breathing through a mask. Yeah. It's physically, mentally, of course, and emotionally, ups and downs. That is a roller coaster, and you got to know how to handle that. So that mentally for sure there, and just stay positive and stay in it. I always said, if I can do it, anybody can. And I was listening to these calls before, and it helped me out, and use the community. And hopefully this will help anyone else out. But it is achievable. It is doable. And I'm a testimony to that. So I'm very grateful and thankful to both of you. So thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. So can't say it any better than that, my friend. Like, that is really good. So good job again, and good job, Maya. And I know that you guys did so amazing. So we are really proud of you. And so can't say anything more. So good job, man. Good job.